Hey, everybody. It is Tuesday, and I really appreciate all of you guys joining me here tonight on my third live stream. However, this is the first live stream that I'm doing solo. I've got no guests, no nothing. So this is a true test to whether or not I got the bandwidth to chat it up with you guys for an hour discussing. Today, it's going to be kind of hyper local. We're going to be discussing the DMV area's real estate market, but really more specifically, Montgomery County. So I've got all sorts of statistics from year end of 2024 and kind of dissect that a little bit and kind of pick through at certain things that I think are important for you guys to know. And also some insights to where I think that we're going to be going in 2025. And right now we've got about a 3-week sample size of 2025, and it's been quite interesting. So I'll certainly elaborate a little bit more on that. But before I go any further, man, I got to give it up. We got to say, hail to those Commanders, Redskins as I know them from my youth. But can you freaking believe that these guys who won 4 games last year, 4 freaking games, that's it. They are actually going to the championship game, playing the Philadelphia Eagles, those dirty birds. And I got to ask, do you think we're going to get them on Sunday? I think they're playing Sunday. Yeah, Sunday. Do you think we're going to win? Yes or no? Kind of give me your thoughts on the Redskins / Commanders going into next week's game. I personally think I'm trying to keep my expectations somewhat in line and also guard my heart from being too crushed. So I definitely think we can win. And that's what I said last week. I definitely think we can win. Do I believe we're going to win? Not quite 100% sure. I'm not there yet, but I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on it. But super excited about that. And then also, if you live in the DMV, you know it's freaking cold outside right now. We're like 10 degrees. It's horrible. I'm actually in my basement. I got a space heater on. That's why I got this jacket on tonight because it's chilly. So anyways, I wanted to get into discussing a little bit about the real estate market. I always tell people that the spring real estate market that we all hear about starts right after the holidays. So we are at the very beginning right now of the spring real estate market. So I'll tell you a little bit about what I've seen so far and what I expect going deeper into the year. But before we get started on that, I wanted to just kind of, like I said, go through a few of the things that we want to cover here tonight. And as always, feel free to chime in with some questions. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you guys have about the real estate market, either real estate past, real estate present, real estate future. So let's bring it on. And if you're from out of the area, once again, feel free to reach out as well, because I'll certainly give you my insight on that as well. But let's start with Montgomery County real estate statistics, kind of year end 2024, and just to kind of see where the market was at the last year in comparison to 2023. So we've got a chart here that we're going to show and kind of zoom in a little bit on that up to the top. And what I wanted to start with is when you compare 2024 to 2023, it's actually quite interesting. You will see that the amount of homes sold, or the dollar volume, I guess we should call it, is $7.2 billion worth of real estate sold in Montgomery County in 2024, which is a ton of money there. When you compare that to last year was at 6.49 billion. So you can see a huge increase of really 800 million there, and really 11% increase year over year. And this really kind of shows that even though with higher interest rates, because everybody was hoping for interest rates to come down last year, everybody's hoping and praying that they're going to come down this year. But even with a kind of a higher interest rate environment, we're still seeing that the amount of sales, or the amount of dollar volume, was up 11%. So that's pretty amazing. Also, Montgomery County, if we look at like the average sold price of everything in Montgomery County last year, and we're talking single family homes, we're talking townhomes, we're talking condominiums as well. The average sales price last year, 2024, was $757,000. Year before that, we were looking at $711,000. So right there, what we're seeing is a 6.5%, actually a little bit more than 6.5% increase on home values in Montgomery County. So what does that really mean right now? I think what that means is, and if you are a home seller, you're still looking at a market that, while not as crazy as it was in 2020, 2021, and the beginning of 2022, when we had 3% interest rates, we're still seeing a market that is on the rise. Sales are up, dollar volume's up, and of course the home values are up too. So a 6.5% increase from this time, or from 2024 from 2023. Also, units sold. Last year, Montgomery County, we had 9,658 sales in Montgomery County, in comparison to the year before that, where we had 9,253. So we're also seeing a 4.3% increase there in the amount of units sold. Just to kind of keep on that same track, what we're seeing also, it's interesting, days on market. In 2023, the average days on market was 19 days on the market, whereas in 2024, it was 20 days on the market. So one extra day. Nothing really to worry about there. We're still seeing that most homes are selling relatively quickly if they're priced well and in, of course, good condition, good saleable condition there. And so, what I'm seeing also, let me also kind of go over one other thing. This is kind of interesting. So your sold price, the ratio of your average sold price to list price was 100.9%. And that was both the same for 2024 and 2023. And so what that really means is that, the average home last year in Montgomery County that was listed sold for 100.9% of the list price. Let's just call it 101% of the list price. So your average $500,000 home that was on the market on average sold for $505,000. So pretty unbelievable that most people, or the average, is still getting above list price on their homes. And really what that shows is, once again, consistent, strong demand. The reason people will get above list price is not because, actually, let me take that back. The only reason anybody's getting something above list price, it's because, guess what? There's other buyers out there that are forcing those buyers to bid higher. So what that really tells you is, behind each buyer, in most cases, there's another buyer chasing up and bidding up the price, if not more than just one other buyer. Sometimes we see that there could be 2, 3, or 4 other buyers. Heck, I was just part of a transaction last week where there were 11 buyers. So that's a little bit of an anomaly that I'm not seeing as much today as we did see that in 2020, 2021, and 2022. But still, once again, for those primo properties, you can expect to even see that in this type of market. And then this, I don't know. I mean, this is definitely one for the record books. And I think it's probably a little bit of a sad note, is that for the first time ever in Montgomery County, the average detached home in Montgomery County sold for over $1 million. We've never had that before, which, once again, is kind of a sad commentary, because there's no question that, when you start seeing home values go up 5-6% a year, and then you start seeing for the first time ever that we've got single family homes that are now selling, the average one above $1 million, there's no question that people are getting squeezed out of that marketplace. But the average sale last year was $1.02 million, up from $968,500 in 2023. So, you're seeing 5.32% increase on single family homes. What was it? I believe all homes altogether was up like 6% last year, but single family homes 5.32%, and the average sales price for a detached home, Montgomery County, over $1 million. So, anyways, and once again, if you guys have any questions about these statistics, I'm going to keep reading them off. I know statistics can be a little bit boring, but there's good meat in there. So feel free to chime in if you have any questions along the way. Also, some of the other noteworthy stats, if I don't know how well you guys can kind of see this, but when you look towards the right of the screen here, and you see financing sold here, one of the things that's really interesting is, and this is really indicative of just kind of a crazy market here, is that last year of the over 9,000 sales, 2,193 of those sales were cash purchases. And that's pretty amazing. That actually is 22.7% of all sales in Montgomery County were cash purchases last year, which I have to tell you, I've been doing this for 30 plus years, and probably the first 25 years or so I'd been in the business, I've probably only been part of a handful of cash deals. And now, fast forward to 2024, 2025, and now we're starting to see that almost 1 out of every 4 transactions is a cash deal. And so that's pretty amazing. And I'll just kind of give you a little bit of insight on that. What I'm seeing is most of the cash deals, while I do see them in a lot of the upper price points, where I'm seeing them mostly is really some of the lower price points, some of the smaller smaller townhouses, condominiums. And we're finding a lot of investors in the lower price ranges purchasing with cash, which, makes it really difficult for those first-time home buyers who are just scraping up enough for down payment, closing cost, and such. So, once again, just amazing, because I would have told you that probably 5 or 6 years ago, I've probably been, once again, a part of maybe 10, 15 cash transactions over a 25, 30-year career. And now it's just like, it's 1 out of 4, so pretty amazing there. And, what that tells me is that, especially for home buyers, and we've talked about this before, I've done plenty of videos on this, but for home buyers, what does this mean? I've had plenty of buyers that I've worked with who have beaten out cash offers. I mean, it's not like, oh my gosh, we're up against a cash offer, we can't compete. No, you can compete. However, it's imperative that, in doing so, you've got to be spot on with your offers. Hold on one second. I'm trying to see questions. You've got to be spot on with your offers there. And what I mean by that is that you've got to, first of all, I would say develop a team around you, starting with a very good real estate agent, a good mortgage lender. Actually, no, not a good mortgage lender, a great mortgage lender. You need a great mortgage lender. You need a great real estate agent. And you need also to get your settlement company involved. You need to get your home inspector involved. Have everybody ready ahead of time. So when the right property shows up, you're ready to pounce on it. And at the same time, you're also going to need to write a clean offer. So you need to be able to go in there with a good, strong financing. You're going to need to go in there with a good amount of earnest deposit. You're going to need to come in there pretty clean with as few contingencies as possible. However, once again, you can beat a cash offer. So I don't want anybody thinking for a moment that they can't be beaten. However, you're just going to have to be better than them on just about everything else, because as we know, in the end, cash is king. So so basically 1 out of 4 homes right now in Montgomery County is selling all cash. So home buyers, if you're out there, you're thinking about doing this in 2025, you just need to be ready. You need to be strong, get your ducks in a row, and we can be successful. For home sellers, obviously that's awesome, because, when you have a cash purchaser, it means fewer hurdles. You're typically not going to have a home appraisal where you're going to have somebody coming in behind the scenes to evaluate the property and potentially try to bring the value of that property down with a lower appraisal. So you don't have to worry about that in most cases with a cash deal. Let's talk a little bit about the speed of the sales. And so if we go back to the graph here, and you look on the very right side of the graph here, you see days on market. So what I thought was interesting is that when you look at days on market, you see that actually, where is it here? 58% of all the sales last year in Montgomery County sold within 10 days of being on the market. So more than half of them were selling in 10 days. Once again, what does that mean to you buyers? It means you need to be ready. You need to be, get that team together, get your financing together, be ready, because when the right thing comes up, you probably won't have very long to make a decision. Also, if you look on that same graph, you will see, let's see, I'm looking at my notes here. Where am I? anyways, 79% of the homes, that's right, sorry, 79% of the homes sold within 30 days of the market. So basically 4 out of 5 homes is going to sell within 30 days. So once again, buyers be ready. So anyways, some of the implications of this, I would say for home sellers, this is a good opportunity to take advantage of, once again, lower inventory, high buyer demand, and optimize your value on your home and selling at a good time. Typically, what we find sellers is that, once again, the spring market tends to be the strongest market that you're going to have all year. I don't care what year it is, whether that year it's a good year like a 2021 or it's a kind of a stinko year like a 2008. What I will tell you is the best time to sell your home is going to be within the first 2 quarters of that year. So really anywhere between January to really about June is going to be the best time to put your home on the market. That's typically when you're dealing with lower inventory and higher motivated buyers. So anyways, I got a question here. So Mark Callis says, as a buyer in a competitive market, it feels like we would like an inspection. It puts us at a disadvantage. How do we handle that on such a large investment so we know potential pitfalls? And Mark, that's a great question. And actually, that's one that I was definitely going to get to. And that's difficult because, once again, when you do find yourself in a competitive situation and you do find that you're oftentimes competing with multiple buyers, there will be buyers out there who will flat out release and drop their home inspection contingency and just take that risk. There definitely are buyers out there who will do that. One of the workarounds that we do a lot with our team is we do what we call a pre-inspection of the property. And so it's kind of like reverse engineered to a certain degree. So in a normal case, you would write an offer on a property. And in that offer, you would write in a home inspection contingency. Typically, that's a relatively short-term contingency for maybe 5 to 7 days after ratification. So once a contract's signed, all I's are dotted, T's are crossed, it's ratified. In most cases with a home inspection contingency, that buyer would have to do the inspection and also get back to the seller with a response within a 5 to 7 day period. Once again, however, a lot of times that's not going to be possible when you're competing against 5 or 6 or more buyers. So a lot of times what we will do is we will actually have the property inspected before we actually put in the offer, which is, once again, like I say, it's a little bit reverse engineered. And, really the way I look at it is, to me, I think when buyers do a pre-inspection, I think it's awesome because they get the opportunity to see it first before they write the offer, or get the inspection before they write the offer. This way, if the inspection comes out, pretty stinko, and it's a property that they don't want, well, guess what? That's awesome. We don't write a contract on it, and maybe you lost $250 or $300 from the inspection. So I find that that's a relatively small amount to avoid getting yourself involved with a property that you can already tell that you don't want. So pre-inspection is a good way of doing it. It also gives you the confidence if conversely you have the inspection and you're like, you know what? This place looks great. Okay, yeah, there's a few things on here. I don't mind. I can take care of that. I'll fix that. It gives you the ability now to go into the contract eyes wide open to the entire house, and hopefully feel the confidence that now you can write a strong offer. It's a home that you definitely want, and you can avoid that home inspection contingency. So definitely a pre-inspection is one of those things that I would highly suggest. I will tell you it's not always possible. Sometimes there are home sellers who don't want a home to be pre-inspected. I don't really understand why. When I'm working with home sellers, I tell them, look, I would love a pre-inspection because typically the only people who are going to be doing that are seriously motivated buyers who, and then, once again, we're confident in our property. We're confident that it's going to fly through that inspection pretty well. But those buyers usually come in very strong, very aggressive, and once again, very confident. And I like the fact that they've already had the inspection done. And so, as an agent working for the seller, I just feel more comfortable taking that offer than somebody who's, writing an offer and has no contingency whatsoever and has no plan to do an inspection. So anyways, great question there. So as far as just kind of the implications of the real estate market right now, for sellers, once again, it's an opportunity to capitalize on increasing prices. And it's important on also strategic pricing to leverage high demand for the property. For buyers, competitive market, it may be prepared with pre-approvals or cash offers, which once again just means that you need to be ready in today's market to be ready when the right thing comes up, to act quickly, act decisively, act confidently, and act strong. So let's talk a little bit about today's market. So with today's market, and actually one thing I realized here, I need to go ahead and there we go. Plug my laptop in. So today's market. So let's take a look at where we are kind of ended up the year, December 2025, going into January of this year. So we've been hearing people bitch and complain, and believe me, it's been definitely valid that inventory has been just ridiculously low. Really, I mean, to be quite honest with you, it was low. It was very low even before the pandemic. But since the pandemic, it's just been ridiculous. It's almost like a pond that's losing water every year. Well, 2024 was kind of that year where inventory started to creep up a little bit. And when I say a little bit, I mean a little bit. But it's the first year in probably 5 or 6 or 7 years where we've started to see inventory starting to increase a little bit, which is we all need there. I mean, there's just been far too few homes on the market. So if we take a look, and hold on, give you a little sip here. If we take a look at the current inventory of homes right now, as of January 1st, 2025, 776 homes on the market. Now, I don't know, 776 may seem like a lot to you. However, this is a county with over 1 million residents and a lot of houses. And so 776 homes in such a large county is really low. However, it has increased some from 2023, where it was 631 at the same time. So we've seen an increase of 23% when it comes to the amount of inventory on the market. And it's positive to see this going up. However, we can't really talk about that without also talking about kind of the flip side of things. And the flip side is that in December of 2024, and once again, guys, December is usually one of our slowest months of the year. For obvious reasons, you've got all the holidays, the weather starts getting a little stinky. And so typically we're not finding that Decembers are usually one of the slower months of the year. However, what we did see is in December of 2024, that the amount of home sales that occurred during that month was up almost 28%. So on one hand, we're seeing inventory going up 23%. That's a good thing. However, it's more or less being dwarfed by the amount of demand that's out in the market, with the sales being up 28%. So, and one of the things that I like to look at, and can't really show it right here, but if you look at the active listings that are on the market, and you see that there is 776 homes, when you look on the right side there under active listings 2024, you see that there's 776 homes right there at the top right side there. Top right. Yeah, so you see that 776 compared to 631 last year. So that you can see that that's up 23% inventory. Now, when you slide to the other side of the page here and you look at units sold, you'll see that there were 766 sales. 766, yeah. Compared to 600 the same time last year. So you see that those sales are up 27%. Now, the thing that I like to look at, and the thing that to me really tells the whole story, is it's really not so much about how many listings are on the market or what the inventory amount is and how many sales. It's the relationship of one to the other. And so what I like to look at is the absorption rate. And so the absorption rate is the relationship between inventory and sales. And so once again, in December of last year, we had 776 homes on the market as of the last day of the year. During that month, we had, how many sales did we have? We had blah, 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 blah. I'm looking at my notes here. We had 766 sales. Divide the amount of sales into the amount of inventory. And basically what you're seeing is it's almost a 1-for-1 match. Okay. Pretty much equal to each other. And what that means is right now there's 1 month's worth of inventory on the market. So I'll put it another way. If nothing else was listed right now and the rate of sales was what it is currently, every house in Montgomery County would be sold within 1 month and we'd have nothing on the market. So you see how important new inventory is, because right now homes are selling so quick that without new inventory, we'd be all sold out. And I might have to go to Home Depot and look for a part-time job or maybe even a full-time job at that point. So, but what I wanted to also kind of let you know is, once again, we got 1 month's worth of inventory currently on the market. If you were to kind of look in and check into what most economists would tell you, most economists would tell you that a balanced market is typically 3 to 4 months worth of inventory on the market. Okay. That's a balanced market where it really isn't in the favor of the buyer and it's really not in favor of the seller. Anything more than 4 months worth of inventory is usually thought of as more of a buyer's market, where you've got high supply and low demand. So once again, think about it that way. You know, an economist would say a balanced market was a 3 to 4 month supply of inventory, and a buyer's market was anything more than that. Right now, we got 1 month's worth of inventory. So this is very much a market that still is in favor of home sellers. And to be quite honest with you, I don't really see that changing anytime soon. So pretty sobering there. Anyways, is anybody up? We got a few questions here. Let's see. Radix asking, are there any local government initiatives or zoning changes encouraging the development of new inventory? Well, that is a great question. And actually, I did a video on this probably about 4 or 5 months ago, where there's a proposal for Montgomery County to kind of loosen up zoning laws, which will now allow, now this hasn't been passed yet, and I don't know that it will, but it's highly controversial. But there are some zoning law changes on the books that is being talked about, where buyers can now go into a community and potentially redevelop a single family and turn it into multifamily. Don't know how that's going to go. I know that that would piss off a lot of people. The idea is create more density. The idea is to create more affordability and everything. And so, you know, how much would that be able to be changing things? I'm not really sure, but I can definitely tell you that would probably piss off a lot of owners, thinking about, you know, having a neighborhood that you purchased in, and then all of a sudden somebody else comes in and starts tearing it down and building up multifamily right next door to you in a residential area. I could definitely see that frustrating people. So I'm not sure if that's ever going to happen or not. Most likely probably will at some point, but I don't think that's going to be anything that's going to change anything too terribly soon. So let's see. And, you know, let's kind of talk a little bit about, you know, where I see things going this year. So once again, to kind of sum up 2025, I mean, it was a year where we saw the market start to pick up a little bit, and it wasn't because rates lowered. We saw more sales, we saw higher sales, and we saw, you know, still inventory relatively low. Where do I see things going this year? To be quite honest with you, we had our live stream 2 weeks ago. We talked to mortgage lender Brian Morley. We kind of analyzed some of the articles and some of the predictions that were out there. And to be quite honest with you, we don't really see a ton of change on interest rates. The Fed is talking about potentially 2 cuts this year. But once again, if you watch that live stream, you would actually realize that really the Fed cutting the long-term or the key interest rates necessarily don't necessarily affect the 30-year mortgages as much as one might think. So what we're seeing this year is, I think we're going to see a lot of the same, where interest rates are going to kind of fluctuate between that 6 to 7% range. So I don't think we're going to get any help right there. But I do think that we're going to have a year that's kind of similar to last year. I do think that actually we will see more inventory coming on the market. I saw something out the other day that I believe it's 60% of Americans who have a mortgage that's 4% or lower. And that's one of the things that's really, caused there to be such gridlock when it comes to new inventory hitting the market. Because simply, I have a lot of clients out there and they say, Kevin, we would love the opportunity to, downsize. We'd like we'd like the thought of maybe upsizing, getting closer into work, potentially moving from this school district to that school district. I have a lot of people that are talking about that, and they really like the idea of doing that. However, as much as they like the idea of doing that, they freaking love their 2.75 interest rate or their 3.25% interest rate. And so as much as they love the idea of moving, so many people I'm finding are frozen in their properties with what we call rate lock, where they just are not going to leave one place and swap a 2.75 for a 6.75 or a 6.5% interest rate. However, in this world, I mean, this has been going on for 3 years now. The interest rates really started going up in, February, March of 2022, went up about as high as 8.5%. And now we're looking once again at the 6 to 7% range. And, there's a lot of people that I've talked to who said, as soon as the rates come down, we're definitely going to want to buy. We're definitely going to want to sell. But what happens during that time while you're waiting is life goes on. Babies come into the picture, death happens, divorce happens, loss of job, all sorts of things happen. And what I'm starting to see is more and more of my clients, as much as they detest the idea of selling and removing themselves from that 2.75% interest rate, life happens and they just need to move forward anyway and bite the bullet and move on. And so we're starting to see now 3 years into this, I think more and more people who are like, the hell with it. You know what? I got to move, man. I can't wait any longer for rates to fall. The other thing that I would say about that is that, when rates do fall at some point, and once again, I don't think they're ever going to be down in that 3% range again. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't really see that happening. So if you're waiting for it to come down there, you're probably waiting a long time and you may never be able to get yourself in the game. But what we're starting to see, though, is I think people starting to kind of free themselves up and say, you know what, I got to move on. I got to do this. And then once again, the idea behind it, too, is, if rates were to fall to that, 4%, 3% range, then we're going to be dealing with what we were dealing with back in 2020, 2021, where you're going to have 20 offers on a property and the home's going to sell for 10, 15, 20% above the asking price, and you're going to be in this constant bidding war. And the one thing that I tell people, especially those buyers, is when you're competing on a home and you're going for it, there's only one winner. I mean, it's not like the Olympics where you've got, a gold, silver, and a bronze. Nope. When it comes to buying a house, there's only one winner, and second place gets the same prize as 20th place. And that is a date with their realtor next week to be going looking at more properties. And I would tell you that that's not much of a consolation prize. So anyways, once again, be careful what you wish for. I do think that if you were to see rates drop that low, you're going to find yourself way overpaying for properties again. And as I like to say also, it's like, what? If you're qualified to purchase, if you want to move and you're qualified to purchase, you get mortgage pre-approved and that mortgage fits within your budget. I know it's probably going to be tighter than you'd like it to be. I mean, I think we're all feeling the squeeze right there. But it's tighter than you want, but you still feel like, I can do this. I think that now is a good time to consider purchasing. And, that's not me as a salesperson saying that. That's me telling you right now that the values of homes have gone up in Montgomery County about 35% in the last 5 years. And last year alone, it went up almost 6%. So we're still seeing values on the rise. And so the longer you wait, I think ultimately the more you're going to pay later down the road. And so I think that it's, once again, not pushing anybody to do anything, but if you can get mortgage pre-approved, you can keep it within your budget. I think now is a better time to do it than waiting for later. And guess what? You always have the ability to potentially refinance, so you buy the property, you get in there at 6.5%, you lock in your price, you lock in your rate. A year and a half, 2 years, 3 years from now, interest rates go down to a point where it might make sense to refinance. There's really not much stopping you as long as you've got a good job and the value of the home still there and you're making the mortgage payments. There's really not much of a reason why you wouldn't be able to refinance and then take advantage of the lower rates later. So anyways, that's just kind of my food for thought. Anybody have any questions out there that I can answer? Because I'm whipping through this information really super quick tonight. No questions? Well, guess what? I'm going to keep moving on then. So what do I kind of, what would I say for home sellers out there right now? I would tell you home sellers right now, as I said earlier tonight, that the spring market in the DMV, and for those of you who are outside of the area, I'm not talking about the Department of Motor Vehicles. When we say the DMV, what we talk about is District, Maryland, and Virginia, kind of that Washington area there. But in the DMV, the spring market has already started right now. I've had 4 sales so far this year. Every one of them has been competitive, where we've had multiple offers, and the majority of them have sold well above the list price right now. So the market is here. And what I find every year, which is kind of interesting, is that I always kind of compare, the start of any year when it comes to real estate, a little bit like the Kentucky Derby, where you've got the seller horse on this side and the buyer horse on that side. And then, the gun goes off, starts, the gates go up, and the buyer side, they're out there prancing. They're out there, hitting it hard, looking for houses. They're highly motivated. They're ready for the right property. And what I find with the seller gate is, as soon as it opens up, they're calling me saying, "Hey, Kevin, we're thinking about moving in April and May. And, can you come on over and tell us what we need to do to get our house ready for the spring market?" And of course, once again, awesome. I appreciate those calls. And I'm definitely going to be there in April or May, God willing, as long as I don't get hit by a bus. I'm going to be there in April, May. But what I try to tell and convey to home sellers is, what? That's when everybody else is going to be out there as well. So I always like to, if possible, beat the competition to the market, because the buyers are there right now. The problem is right now, most of the properties that are out there have been out there for some time. And I kind of compare them to like if you were to go to a clothing store and you go in there and you see the clearance rack. I mean, you're looking at at a pants, a sweater, slacks, whatever it is, that's got, a button missing off of it, a thread coming out, a strange stain that we have no idea what it is. And God knows you don't want to put a black light to it. Anyways, this is what we normally see when we're talking about the type of inventory in the beginning of the market. It's usually all the crap that was left over from last year that didn't sell, that nobody wanted. And guess what? Most of these buyers that are newbies to the market probably aren't going to want them too. So why not get your property ready, fresh, ready to go, and put it on the market, beat the rush in maybe a January, February, March, because guess what? The buyers are there. So, all right. So we got a question here. Hold on one second. From Kelsey. How soon can you refinance after purchasing a home? Kelsey, that's a great question. And really the answer is you can refinance whenever you want. I would just say that you want to refinance when it makes sense, because there are costs to refinancing. It's not like, and that's actually a good question, because it made me really think of this point. Is I don't want to make refinancing sound like it's super, super easy and it doesn't cost you anything. There are costs involved with it. So really, what you need to look at is, what is my current payment? What is my current rate? Okay, where are rates now? What could I get as a prevailing rate today, and see what the difference is going to be between what you're paying now and what you will be paying with this new rate. And then the other thing you're going to want to look at is, what are the costs involved with refinancing? So pretty easy math. let's say it's going to cost you $6,000 to refinance your property, and it's going to save you $50 a month. Okay, so $50 a month, okay, if you were to multiply that by 12, is $600 a year. And your break-even point for the $6,000 you invested would be 10 years. And so I wouldn't think that would make a lot of sense. Like I say, $6,000 is a lot of money to pay to get a break-even point 10 years later, because the chances are good, like most Washingtonians, that you would be selling way sooner than that. I think the average person living in the DMV is selling their house like every 7 years or so. So that wouldn't make sense. However, if it costs you that same $6,000 and you're saving $300 a month, actually that's probably a bit of a stretch. Let's say it's $200 a month. That's now going to save you $2,400 a year, and your break-even point would be somewhere before your third year. That probably makes more sense to do so. So to answer your question, you can really do it at any time, but you really need to put some thought into it. This should not be an emotional, I just want to save myself $75 or $50 a month. You really need to look at, how much it's going to save you monthly, how much it's going to cost to do it, when the break-even point is, and what your long-range plans are. If you plan on, if it's going to be breaking even in 5-6 years, but that, let's say you're going to be relocating, maybe you're in the military and you get stationed somewhere else, a year or two from now, and you're going to sell the property, it might not make sense to do that. So appreciate the question. Good question. So getting back to what we were talking about, I would just say for home sellers right now, if you're thinking about 2025, I would think earlier in the year better than later in the year. So I would say the first 2 quarters of any given year are going to be your better years too. You're going to have more buyers in the marketplace. Chances are you're going to get higher value, more interest in the property than you will Q3 or Q4. But to me, it all starts with, you have to be ready. I would never tell somebody to rush their home on the market just because it's a good time to sell. I mean, you need to be ready. You need to have plans. You need to know where you're going to go. And I also think that while timing is important, I think that what's more important than timing is actually the condition of the property. And so I get that a lot, where I'll have home sellers are like, oh my God, I got to get it on the market now. You're saying it's such a great time. Well, yeah, you know what? It is a good time to sell. However, the house is the star of the show. And if the house isn't ready to go, then you know what? I would say that, if you're given one choice of timing versus having the house ready, let's err on the side of having the house ready. To me, that's the more important thing. So even if that puts you, a little bit more somewhat off season by having the house ready, I think that's still the more important way to go. So timing's important, but I think condition that you go on the market, the condition of the property is more important. So for those home sellers, once again, start getting, if you're thinking about moving this year, I would suggest that you get together with your realtor. If you're in the DMV, hey, I'll take that call. If you're outside the DMV, guess what? I can help you, refer you to another agent outside of the area. If you simply want to get in touch with me, I think we've got a QR code on the screen right now. So if you were to click that QR code and scan that QR code, it'll actually take you to my website where you can go ahead, fill your information in. And once again, I can definitely get you hooked up with a top quality agent throughout the country. I'm pretty fortunate that in doing this as long as I have, and also working with Compass, we've got some of the top agents, and I network with a lot of the top agents throughout the country. So if you're outside of the area and you have questions about either buying or selling a house, just click on that QR code right. Man, it's kind of confusing me. There it is. Scan that, fill in your information, and I'd be happy to talk to you about it. And there's no obligation, but definitely help you get hooked up with a top real estate agent in your area. And, I say this on every live stream. I say this on many of my videos, and I don't mean to be mean, but what I will tell you is, having done this as long as I have, is that 80% of the real estate agents out there suck. Unfortunately, this is a business that attracts a lot of goofballs, goobers, and misfits. I'd like to think that I'm not one of them. However, that's more for you to judge. So if you think that I'm a goofball, goober, or misfit, feel free to put it in the comment section. I'm good. I got a strong skin and a strong stomach. But anyways, my point being is that if you just pick up the phone and just start calling for an agent, or you show up at an office or whatever, chances are you're going to get probably a part-time agent, somebody who's just beginning in the business, and somebody who probably is not qualified to handle what probably is going to be the largest sale or purchase of your life. So anyways, got another question in there. Okay, Mark Callis. Okay, thank you very much. Really appreciate all this information. Hey, I thank you for just watching this and everything. Once again, it's the first time without a guest here, and so I'm flapping my jaws a lot, which I'm not used to doing. I'm usually pretty quiet, don't have a lot to say, but tonight I've got to fill it all in. So I appreciate you guys, watching and everything. Yeah, so anybody else have any questions there? Because if not, I'm just going to keep going on for about the next 10 minutes and also kind of discuss what we're going to talk about next week. So last thing I would just tell you also is, as we discussed before, not expecting a lot of change with mortgage interest rates. So I don't think we're going to see a ton of refinances this year. I don't think the mortgage rates are going to lure a lot of people into the marketplace. However, with the values continuing to go up, I think the longer you put this off, the less the less you're going to get down the road. So if you have any questions about, purchasing, selling this year, feel free to hit me up. I'm not a high pressure dude. So if you have any questions, just, once again, we can talk about it. Also, I think we're going to put up on the screen too, if you want to set up a one-on-one video call with me or video conference, you can also click on that one right there. Yeah, schedule a one-on-one appointment. So if you have any questions about your house, getting it ready, tips, hacks, tricks, where the market is, where the market isn't, or you're thinking about buying or selling a house, you can also scan that QR code and it'll go directly to my Calendly link where you can go ahead and set up a one-on-one appointment with me. Okay, so and also, once again, I've got my YouTube channel. I don't know how many of you guys have seen my YouTube channel, but I'm posting a video a week on that. So I've always got pretty good and fresh and relevant content there. So definitely appreciate the likes, the subscribes. Subscribes help me out a lot. So I really appreciate that. Let's see. Any other questions here? Don't have any other questions. Let's talk a little bit about next week. So next Tuesday, I'm pretty excited. I've got on my live stream next week, Matt Alleghi, who's an attorney with the law firm of Shulman Rogers, and Matt is partner at Shulman Rogers. He's actually the lead of the real estate department at Shulman Rogers, and he's going to go over some of the things and the pitfalls of buying or selling homes. And so basically what Matt's going to cover is the top things that end up on his desk where people end up getting sued, whether they be buyers, whether they be sellers, or whether they be real estate agents. So if you're thinking about buying or selling real estate, or you're in the real estate business and you don't want to get sued, this is going to be a great one to watch because there's a lot of pitfalls in this business. So Matt's going to kind of dissect some of those things and discuss the top reasons why people are getting sued within the real estate business. And there's a lot of it going around. Matt's also going to cover some of the things that we really haven't talked about on my live stream here. I've done a video or two about it, but I don't know how many of you heard about a lot of the changes that took place last year with the settlement of the class action lawsuit with the National Association of Realtors. So that all went down in March of last year. New rules, new regulations came out in August. And so we're going to kind of break that down. Right around the time that the news broke on the settlement of the lawsuit, you had a lot of clickbait out there with all the big publications, the New York Times, the Washington Post, all of those news publications saying the end of the 6% commissions is over. Commissions are dropping and everything. And so, that's, once again, a lot of that was sensationalized. A lot of that was kind of clickbait, but we'll break through that and kind of give you some of the nuts and bolts of some of the changes that have taken place, because it is a little bit of a different landscape out there. And, there are things that both for home sellers and home buyers, you're going to need to know about before you enter the marketplace. It's a lot different for both home sellers and home buyers than it was if you did this, well, hell, if you did this anytime before August of 2024, there's a lot that's changed, but there's a real lot that's changed if you haven't done this in 10 or 15 years or so. So we'll go through some of those things. Anyways, got another question here that comes up, and it is, Kevin, do you see the inventory of homes going up more in 2025? And what I would say to that is the answer is yes. I do see inventory continuing to go up, however, not crazy going up. Hold on, getting a little dry. So just to kind of give you a story, last week, I went out to a basketball game with a friend, and he brought another friend along with him. And, when we got to talking about what we did, and I work in real estate, he said, well, I think we're going to start seeing a lot of foreclosures and short sales in Montgomery County. What do you think? And I basically told him that I'm not seeing that. I think with very rare, very rare situations, I'm just not seeing that. And he said, well, why don't you see that? He's like, interest rates have gone up, blah, 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 the economy. And while, yeah, interest rates have gone up, once again, we've been in a 6.5% to 8.5% environment now for 3 years. The reason I don't see that is because the strong majority of buyers who have purchased out there are purchasing with fixed rate mortgages. These are mortgages where the rate is not going to go up. It's not like back in the day in the early 2000s where we saw so many predatory loans out there, where you had interest-only loans, you had adjustable rates that would just jump it all over the place. So the buyer was qualified on a lower rate, but then within a year or so, it's already spiking up, and the buyer no longer can afford it. There was no money down. There was, once again, interest-only loans where the buyers were making payments, and none of the money they were paying was going towards principal, is only paying interest. And conversely, I actually saw negative amortization loans. And these were like the worst, where you had buyers who had an adjustable rate, they put nothing down, and they were given basically a menu of, what their options were for monthly payment. They could either pay a fully amortized amount, which means that they're paying for interest and money towards principal. They could pay the interest only amount, which was a lower amount payment where they're just paying interest. And then they could even pay a lower amount than that, where they were actually adding to their principal amount. So each month they were making a payment, they were actually adding money to the principal, not deducting money from the principal. So we even saw those type of loans. Those are no longer out there anymore. The buyers that I've been working with for the last 10 or 15 years and who are out there, the strong majority of them have strong credit scores. The strong majority of them have good assets, income. They're putting down stronger down payments than ever before. And they're getting fixed rate mortgages. So these are not ones that are likely to well-qualified buyers putting down a strong down payment. These are highly unlikely that these will go to foreclosure. The other thing compounded on that is, as we discussed earlier, the values of homes have gone up so much over year after year that even a home buyer that purchased 2 or 3 years ago, today, if they got themselves in trouble, meaning like, they lost a job, there was a death, there was a divorce, there was some type of situation that caused, some panic or what have you. Most of these people have a good amount of equity because they put 10 or 20% down in most cases, and the value of their property, they've paid it down some over time, and the value of the property's gone up. So they have equity. So they get themselves in trouble, where they lost a job, maybe had a divorce, had a death. They can oftentimes very easily sell it and regain equity back and move on to the next place. Whereas in the past, in those early 2000s, that 2008, 2009 period, you had buyers who put nothing down on their home. The values dropped seriously on their home. And so when the time came that they needed to sell, they owed more than the home was worth. I'm just not seeing that right now. With the exception of, I have seen some situations out there with condominiums where, and we're seeing this quite often, unfortunately, where you're seeing condominiums where they, especially older ones, where there's extensive amount of work that needs to be done on the building, on the exteriors, where they, I have a situation here. I'm not going to mention the area, but I have a situation right now where there's 100 or 90 units in a condominium, and there's $2 million worth of work that needs to be done on the outside. And guess where that's coming from? That's coming from the 90 unit owners. They took out a 10-year loan on it. That's going to be each owner, I think, owes about $60,000 on that needs to be paid off over the next 10 years. So those values on those properties are falling just simply because, there's not a lot of home buyers out there who are going to want to take that over. And so you're starting to see the values dropping there. So in some rare cases, I think maybe with some condos where you have the condominium is tough financial situation, you might start to see people saying, you know what, the heck with this. I can't afford it. I'm just going to walk away from it. And so we might start seeing that there. But anyways, unless anybody else has any questions, we've reached the witching hour. It's 7 o'clock. We've been on now for an hour. And I wanted to thank everybody for joining tonight. I wanted to also thank you guys who asked questions. And I want to also, once again, give a shout out to the Commanders. I still call them the Redskins. Maybe that's politically incorrect, but for the game this week against those dirty birds of Philadelphia. God, I can't stand that team. And you know what? I was going to say something nasty about their fans, but I actually do have a lot of good Philadelphia fans, and let's just say that they're spirited all right. So anyways, hail to the Commanders / Redskins. And once again, don't forget to join me next Tuesday, 6 o'clock. I'm going to have Matt Alleggi, Shulman Rogers. He's going to be here, and we're going to talk about the top 10 things that get buyers, sellers, and real estate agents alike sued in a real estate transaction. So you don't want to miss that. And once again, if you haven't done so already, go ahead, check out, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Would love you to follow me there. And, and once again, share the videos, all that. And then if you, once again, need to have any questions about real estate, and you want to set up a one-on-one appointment with me via Google Meet, feel free to go ahead, and you're going to want to scan the QR code on the screen there. I think it's there. It's going to be showing up there soon. Scan that. Yeah, there it is. So scan that QR code. Once again, go ahead and fill in everything. Set up the Calendly appointment, and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about when it comes to real estate. So once again, everybody, thanks so much for joining me. And you guys have a great Tuesday and a great week. And go Commanders.